Check, 1, 2, 3.
The D.
Brief.
This is the D Brief.
Go. Your guide to Detroit.
Your guide to Detroit's arts
and entertainment scene.
This is the D
Brief.
Hello and welcome to the Debrief, your podcast for Detroit concerts, comedy, plays, food, drink, and more. It is Tuesday, August 6th, 2019. It is August.
It's crazy.
I'm your co-host. My name is Seth Ressler.
And I'm Becky Scarcello.
If you've never heard the podcast, I'm the person who doesn't know anything because I haven't lived here very long. And even if I had, I've got a terrible memory, so I'm just not that bright.
And I'm the person that has lived here all my life. I still don't know everything.
And you're still not that bright.
No.
But you're brighter than I am. Here's what we've got on the show today. J Chris Newberg is a stand-up comedian. He was competed on America's Got Talent, and from there did a whole bunch of things. He has toured with Dane Cook, and he's appeared on a bunch of those night shows like Jimmy Kimmel. He's performing at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle this weekend, and I had an opportunity to talk to him, so you'll hear bits of that conversation.
Very cool. I'm going to tell you about the Geometry Festival. It's a brand new festival happening at the Marble Bar this Saturday that you are going to want to check out. Just amazing lineup of musicians and artists.
And I know this is hard to believe, but there is drama in the world of Detroit theater.
No, say it isn't so.
I mean, more so than usual. I would, dare I say it, melodrama.
Extra.
Yeah, there's extra drama. So we'll tell you what that's all about.
So this week, we normally do our big interviews on Fridays, but this week we're going to put it out on Thursday. We talked to Michael Smith of the Detroit Improv Fest.
Yeah, that's a big deal here.
Yeah,
I mean,
so we wanted to get it
in
time.
Yes.
So you can hear all about the festival.
Look, we talk about a lot on this podcast. If you would like us to email you a list of links to everything that we talk about, because there's a lot going on and you want to look like you're cool and like you're in the loop, here's what you do. Go to our website, thedebriefdetroit.com, and while you're there, sign up for the email list.
Or you can just use your mobile phone, text Detroit to 444-999.
And don't forget, we now have Michigan Podcast Productions. Here's the deal. We are producing branded podcasts for Detroit arts and entertainment organizations. So whether you're a theater, or whether you're a restaurant, or whether you're a museum or a comedy club, if you've been thinking about producing a podcast, you should. It's lots of fun.
It is fun.
Yes, and we can help. Go to michiganpodcastproductions.com for all the details. You ready?
Ready.
Let's meet our guest co-host for today.
This is the D
Detroit
Brief.
It's been a while since we've had a filmmaker in here.
It has. I'm really glad that we're making this happen.
All right. So our guest today is the president and one of the founders of the Royal Starr Film Festival. Starr with 2 R's.
Yes.
Very important. If you can look this up on the online. And the film festival is taking place in Royal Oak, September 6th through the 15th. And he is also the president of Royal Starr Arts Institute. Welcome, Luke Castle.
Hi, thank you for inviting me. This is great.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah,
we love having the filmmakers because, I
got a bunch of them.
Do you really?
Yeah. 150 at least. Actually, altogether, probably over 1,000 now.
Wow.
If we get them all in the same room.
Right.
Wow.
And you really have built community around this. Filmmakers talking to each other, working together.
Yeah, it's something that we really focus on. It's one of the big things that I want to be able to do is create an art community here. And since my background is film, we're going to start with the film community.
Perfect.
So let's talk about the Royal Starr Arts Institute. What is it exactly? What are you guys doing over there?
Well, what we do is we support the arts through community. What is it? Community. I just forgot my tagline there. It's community
that happens
education
to me all the
events.
time.
Sorry, it was community education. I wrote it. I should know this
You're
stuff, right?
It's just so ingrained. It's hard to articulate.
Community education and events. Obviously, we have the film festival coming up in September, which is one of the big events. But monthly, every second Tuesday of the month, we have the filmmaker community mixers, which are put on at Hamlin Corner in Royal Oak. And that brings the community together so we know what projects are going on. We can team up to go work on a project and just meet each other and network.
And is it strictly filmmakers that come, or could it be actors
or
writers?
Filmmakers, actors, writers. We've had musicians come because, there's composers. We've just had people that just want to check it out and see what it's like there.
Nice.
Yeah, just about everybody has came out and enjoyed it, hopefully.
And you can find out about that on your Facebook page.
RoyalStarr.org, and then we have a Facebook page. Royal Starr Arts Institute is the Facebook page, which we always post on there. We have an active community on Facebook.
What is the state of the film community here in the Detroit area, especially in the wake of the tax incentives
Right, going away.
disappearing?
It died right after tax incentives.
Sure.
So, I mean, that was like the big push. Like, we all were excited. It was in the news because the media was covering it all the time. And that's sort of why we do now what we do.
Filling that gap.
The community had died. There was no...
When you say died, was there a talent exodus? Did people then move to other places, or just...
People just stopped getting excited about it,
Yeah.
right? When we stop talking about things, we sort of forget that they exist.
Yeah.
So I knew it was still here because I still had friends that were still in the industry. And we just needed a little bit of space because it was sort of bitter when it all left.
I'm sure.
But when I had the opportunity, we took it and we started the community events again. And we're like, I think it was February of last year. I'm like, maybe 40 people will show up. We'll see what happens. And we put feelers out there. And I think the first mixer we had was 106 people.
Wow.
And
That's
it's never
Yeah.
dipped below that.
Oh, wonderful.
I know August 13th is our next one, and it's going to be well over 300 people.
Wow.
Easy.
yeah. And is that probably because you're approaching the film festival? Or
It's because we pair with the 48-hour film festival here
Oh, sure.
with,
We covered
I think
that.
her name's Jennifer, she puts it on. And we team up to show those films that won.
Oh, perfect.
That's really
That's
cool.
one of the reasons. And then those films will be probably during the film festival. So, yeah.
Nice.
And we do. That's something that we like is we love working with other organizations. We're that organizations that's like, hey, you want to be our friend? So
Yeah, that's a way to go.
Do you find people receptive? What is the film community like? I mean, are people all...
it is interesting. It's
no drama, though,
Oh,
right? No.
absolutely. There's never drama in any entertainment industry.
Right.
Oh, of course there's drama. I think that's half of the reasons why we're in it.
You're right.
Life's interesting. I think I was having this conversation the other day with a filmmaker barbecue. I think we're doing a really good job of tearing down the walls that some of the filmmaking community had. I guess that's the best way to put it.
No, that's
we used to be in our own little cells and we did our thing and we don't care about your thing. And part of what we're doing is trying to set the example of how to do and how to connect better with each other so that my group of people care about your group of people, and then these two groups of people can come together and do something great. And that's on all levels, both the filmmakers themselves and even the film festivals. We're one of the big film festivals that really, really do support other film festivals and invite them in and advertise with them. And this is something that we think is important. Like, it's just not our film festival. There's a lot of other ones out there that we support. So,
when you say filmmaker, I conjure up a certain image in my head, a Steven Spielberg or a Martin Scorsese or a Spike
That's what I
Lee,
look
something
like.
like that. Right, yes. You're exactly what I was picturing.
there you go.
Me too.
But we now live in an age where, video content can live
Absolutely.
on YouTube or Vimeo or
Just
1,000 other
free
places.
out there. Yeah.
How does that change what you do and what filmmakers do?
They're all filmmakers to me. I think the day you pick, there was this question that I got. We do this production workshop during our educational component during the festival. And one of the first film festivals I was part of was the Detroit Windsor International Film Festival down in Detroit. And that was the question is, what point do I become a filmmaker? And my answer has always been the day you pick up a camera. Like that's when you do it. Whether you're good at it or not is a different question. But you become a filmmaker.
I'm a filmmaker.
As soon as you pick up the camera.
Yes.
And I think that's all it really takes. The advent of digital filmmaking or photography has been awesome. Anybody can do it. The downfall is anybody can do it. So there's a lot of not great stuff out there, but I feel like in any art form, it comes down to consistently trying and then getting better. So when you're done with the work, you look at it and like, okay, what did I do wrong? And then going back and saying, okay, let's get that right this time. And then building on that. There's a great quote by the guy that does the This American Life podcast.
Oh, Ira Glass.
Ira Glass.
Yes.
And I wish I had it off the top of my head, but it went something like, I wish they would have told me when I was younger.
I've seen this. There's a little animation
yes.
with it. I know the quote you're talking
he
about.
pretty much says, when you get into it as an artist or as an entertainer or anything, that you start to do work and you know it's bad, but what got you into it was your taste.
Yeah.
Like, you know it's bad. And that's what makes you an artist. And that only doing a body of work consistently over and over again, that you can close that gap where your work starts to live up to your expectations.
Right. Yes.
And
whether you're a musician
anything.
or artist or
and
filmmaker.
I think that's what it comes down to. Even if you're doing film festivals, like, we try to get better every single year when we put on this big event. And I think we do. So, I think consistency comes out. I think too many people quit too early, especially when they hit that first wall. It's like, oh, whatever it's going to be. Usually it's money. But like the barrier to entry is so small now, and that excites me, because that means we can find even more creative people out there that couldn't afford to do this before. So that's exciting.
Very exciting. Yeah. And then that whole just putting your 10,000 hours, the Malcolm Gladwell
absolutely.
Principle of, and if you don't believe in yourself, you don't even get close to that. But just to know that its opportunity is out there rather than it being limited before by the equipment or whatever. It's interesting.
It used to be really expensive.
Yeah.
Well, Luke, we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Hang out with us, have a good time, and just enjoy the show.
Will do.
This is the D Brief,
Want more?
your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.
Go to the debriefdetroit.com.
Becky, let's talk about what's happening in music news.
Sure. So I didn't expect to talk about Bernie Sanders in music news, but, I think he's part of his strategy is to start hanging out with some cool musicians. So I don't know if you saw this when he was in Detroit. He was at the 10 Nail Bar with Cardi B. Chit-chatting about youth engagement.
I did see this.
Yeah, there's a great photo of that. Apparently, he was talking to Jack White.
So wait, I don't know what's weirder, that he's hanging out with Cardi B or that he's in a nail salon.
Exactly. I was like, why are
Like,
they
do you think,
there?
is he getting a
He might have
mani
been
and
getting
petty?
a petty.
Is it a bar or is it a nail salon?
It's a nail salon.
All right.
10 as in 10 fingers, 10 toes. Yeah.
Oh.
Downtown.
That's a little odd,
Yeah,
right?
it's a little odd.
Odd.
I wish he would have Instagrammed what he got done.
I would too.
He didn't
get
have
it.
sandals or anything. So I don't know.
He could have gotten something done.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you think he's a sandals and socks kind of guy?
I would guess.
Yeah,
Yes, I would
so?
guess.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so too.
So what do we
Yeah.
think they were talking about?
Well, it said they were talking about, youth engagement in politics.
So I never know how I feel about this, about artists getting involved in politics. And I feel like there's
Any
some,
entertainers, yeah.
but then again, I grew up on Public Enemy and I grew up on Tupac and a lot of, rappers who were very politically engaged, even if they might not have been involved in electoral politics.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't know about...
I think it's cool because it's people that have a voice and have an audience and can have some influence. Now, that's not always good, obviously, but hey, I think thinking more outside your own little silo of what you do is not a bad thing.
It feels like filmmakers have not been particularly
Are you
politically
serious?
active, right?
Absolutely.
Like, really? Recently?
Yes. Oh, yeah. And even at the Oscars. I mean, think about the Oscars, all the political talk.
I mean, but...
And, films like Black Klansman and, telling stories like that perfectly play into
I guess what I
political
mean
climate.
is, when I look back at something like the Vietnam War, and I actually think about this more from music than I do from film, but I think about how politically active everything was at the time and reactionary to what was going on. And we feel like we're in a very politically charged time. And I feel like...
It's not to that level?
I especially feel like the music's not to that level.
I think we just didn't make films that sort of support our ideas, because that's the best way to get in to a person, if it makes sense. I mean, and I feel like sometimes the artist can do that, but you usually have to you have an image when you're an artist because you are part of that product, where a director is usually removed from the product that we create. It's a little bit different.
You mean
No,
it's not necessarily? Well, what? No, what do you mean by that? You mean
Like we don't know all the directors that put on.
that's true?
It's
Nobody's
not
going to
the
be
household
like
name.
with the exception of like a handful of people,
Like
like
a Quentin Tarantino,
exactly.
or a Spike Lee.
You're not going to see a film because this particular director's filming it. Usually,
Right. Majority of the time.
where the musician is so connected to their product, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
So we just approach it differently by making a film about that. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what it comes down to.
Yeah, but I think I know what you're saying, Seth, too. It's like sometimes it gets diluted because people are afraid of isolating certain parts of their audience or
Right.
offending someone. And so it's gotten a little bit more vanilla because everything they say is tweeted out or...
I feel like the guys,
expressed
it's actually been Detroit musicians. It's been Kid Rock. It's been Eminem. It's been Ted Nugent, right? I mean, those are the guys who have been political, you know? I mean, I know Cardi B is political on social media.
Yeah.
But is she in her music as much? I don't...
No.
Right.
No, not as much.
So,
yeah.
I don't know. But I also think Bernie just likes hanging out with rappers.
I think Bernie could have been a rapper, maybe.
You think so?
Yeah, I'm sure he's spitting some rhymes in his head. I
wrote
you
the
know?
damn bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see it. I'm down.
Yeah,
I would
that's
go to
dope.
that concert.
Me too.
What would his rap name be?
Oh.
DJ Burn?
Yeah.
Something with burn.
Something
It had
with
to feel the
It would have
burn.
to be,
Yeah.
MC Burn.
Right. Well, that was the slogan back in
Yeah,
2016.
that's
Feel
what I
the
mean.
burn?
It had to do with the feel the burn. It have to do with that.
And it wasn't just Cardi B, because I saw a photo of him with Jack White
Yeah,
that was floating
yeah.
around, too.
I don't know as much info on that, but
Okay.
yeah, that was going around too. So.
What do you think they talk about?
I don't know what you would talk to Jack White. The only time I interviewed
What would you
Jack
talk
White.
to
Jack
Bernie
White
about?
yelled at me. I'll bet Bernie would yell at me if he interviewed
He does
him
have
too.
that yelly quality, you know, that yelling, very passionate.
I'd just get yelled at by both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'd want to be a fly in that.
What would you ask? Like, what would you ask him? What would you ask if Bernie was in the nail salon? What would you ask him?
What would I ask?
Well, I'd
him?
ask him what color he was using.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. Yeah, I'd probably ask like some of the policies and programs he's talked about. I'd ask for specifics. Like,
Pedicures for all.
how would that work, and who would really pay for that?
do you think he wants to answer that, or do you think he
No.
just wants to have a conversation about like Luigi's down the street?
No,
Like,
I
I'm so sick of talking about healthcare. Let's
yeah,
just
he
talk
probably
about,
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you
Yeah.
want to talk about Luigi's?
Except that he has a way of pivoting back to health. You know,
Always.
like you would ask him about Luigi's, and like, I don't want to talk about Luigi's. That's a distraction. Let's talk about health.
You're right. I've seen him do that.
He does
Absolutely.
that. He is on message better than anybody I've ever seen.
Very consistent
Yes.
and persistent.
Yes.
Do you think he'll do that again? Like that was his personality.
Yeah.
Well, he was still that way in the debates.
But do you
when
think
I
he'll have
saw-
to change some of
No,
that? To
I don't think.
come off
I don't think
message,
he can. I don't think
I
he
don't think
can.
he can
feel
either.
like he's relatable.
Yeah. No.
I don't
All
think
right.
so. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm
let's-
excited.
Let's change to something not political. So, Mosaic Youth Theater, I think we can all sit here and agree, are fantastic,
They're great.
fantastic group. So, this is, a training program for teens in high school to be in basically show choir performances. And they put together this new show. It's called Now That I Can Dance, Motown 1962. And it's all in collaboration with the Motown Museum, the Motown organization, to celebrate the 60th anniversary this year.
That sounds like a CD compilation.
It kind of does, yes. It
Now
kinda
That I Can
does.
Dance.
Yes, yes. Well, I think that's one of those, I think those early Motown hits and lyrics, it just immediately conjures up. You just start singing it in your head.
Oh, see, I didn't do that.
Yeah, because you're not, I don't know, maybe because you're not from Detroit or you just didn't, it wasn't
I
part
thought
of
it was the sequel to So You Think You Can Dance, is what I thought it was.
Now That I Can Dance. That's
Right.
a good one. So, trivia, do you know Motown's very first #1 record on the pop charts? Don't look at my notes.
Do I know the?
What was the first song to hit #1 from the Motown label?
No, I have no idea.
Please, Mr. Postman.
Oh,
Now, how do you not hear that and start singing?
yeah, that I
Wait
start
a
singing.
minute, Mr. Postman.
Yeah, that I start singing.
Okay, so
Did you know that? I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that.
if you went to the Motown Museum,
I'm
you
going
would
to
know.
have
You haven't
to.
been?
To the Motown Museum?
Yeah.
I have been outside of it. We had to shoot the outside of the it's a little blue building, right?
Yeah, Sun Crown River.
Yeah.
Wait.
I've had to shoot the
Fair
outside
Boulevard.
of it for a doc.
You have filmed the museum.
Yes.
And you have not been
I
inside
have filmed the museum quite a bit, actually. I'm a little bit embarrassed. Yeah, I don't ever, and if I did, it was like at work where I just don't remember like walking through it.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
like I like when you're filming, like you're just trying to pick up the shots and then go and get out of the way of people because you're doing this when everybody else is around. So if I was there, I don't remember, but I do remember the outside of it.
What were you filming it for?
Iconic.
The thing I can remember is I did a docuseries back in the day, probably like 2011, 2012. Yeah, I think that. It was called Motor City Rising, and it was a 3-part docuseries about the up-and-coming artist in the Metro Detroit, in the Detroit area, at the beginning of that resurgence of Detroit. So like really, really in the Wild West days where people just like, we're going to go do this. We're going to
buy a building for $1.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just,
and, you know, the beginning of like, I don't know, just people coming back down to Detroit.
Yeah, yeah, and creating new things.
Any artists that were in it that went on to...
Sean Forbes, who was found originally by Eminem. He's a deaf rapper. We followed him, and I became really good friends with those guys. They're still some of my favorite people. So Sean Forbes, the girl, her name's Veronica Scott, I think, who made a coat for the homeless out of Tyvek.
Yes.
Trigger Strasberg, who went on to do Humble Design. Like all these people when they were little babies and their little ideas, and they were just like working through them. And now Trigger has a national TV show called Humble Design, and Veronica Scott spoken with the UN, and Sean Forbes went on to do a worldwide tour.
That's cool.
Yeah.
For the hard of hearing, or was it deaf and hard of hearing?
Community, yeah.
Yeah. And they now have their own TV show called DPAN, which I don't know what that stands for. I think it's a Deaf Artists Network or something like that. But it was really cool. All in the beginning of like them trying to figure this stuff out.
Very, very cool. So anyway, this production, Now That I Can Dance by Mosaic Youth Theater, is telling that whole story of the Marvelettes and that first #1 record. So it's taking place at the Detroit Film Theater there at the DIA this weekend, August 9th through 11th, and next weekend too, August 16th to 18th. And if you've never seen a Mosaic Youth Theater show, I just highly encourage you to go. There's so many talented kids here in the city. All right, so I have to tell you about a kind of an unusual place to hear some techno and an unusual time. I mean, I think of techno as like you go more late night at some dark clubs, that kind of thing.
That's when you're rolling, honey?
That's when exactly.
Break out your glow sticks?
Exactly. But now you can go daylight, outside, lunchtime at the Detroit Historical Museum.
I feel like glow sticks would be a lot less effective.
Yeah,
I think so too.
No. And you don't necessarily have to dress for this. You can be wearing whatever you're wearing for your work day or your wandering about day. So they have that Legends Plaza there in front, faces Woodward. And yeah, from 12 to 2:30 every Tuesday in August, they'll have a new DJ spinning techno. And I think this is all about just starting to reach different audiences, starting to have a little bit different personality there because
this is making me feel old. The fact that techno music is now at the historical
It's kind of
museum.
like when classic rock started including like U2.
Yes,
something.
right.
And
Exactly.
And you hear it and you're like, wait a minute.
You'll understand someday.
Oh
Lou.
no, I'm there. I heard them playing In Sync on the oldie station. I'm just like,
right. You're like,
yes, man.
Was that your jam back in the day?
Yeah, like
Yeah, so I don't know if techno is going to become elevator music just yet. But see, so this is like, let's face it, the Historical Museum, Historical Society has kind of had a reputation as like the old white man's history.
Well, that's, sure.
So it's just another piece
Well, wait,
of the puzzle.
has it really? Because I haven't been here that long. I mean,
Yeah.
the first really big thing I went and saw at the Historical Museum was all about 1967.
Oh, it's changed. Don't get me wrong. It's totally evolving. And I don't think that, that they're only
But
representing.
you're saying...
But just like kind of the reputation in town or maybe some, bad feelings.
Okay.
I
didn't know.
I gotta go check it out. I haven't
Yeah.
been down there in a while.
Right, and you should because there is a lot of great stuff going on there and a lot of things coming down the pipeline.
You know what we did there that was really cool? My girlfriend and I's Bailey Sisoy Iskro, who runs the Detroit History Club,
Yes.
Okay.
did a scavenger hunt there.
Oh, I would be totally down for a scavenger hunt. I don't care what we're looking for.
I know, right?
And
I love
hers
those
are
things too.
hard. I mean, she has like
Yes.
100 clues, and she's like,
I went to an event of hers at the Detroit Yacht Club, and it was like that too, like these crazy puzzles.
Right, and you're like, if I get 30 of these, I'm in good shape.
Who's this person that puts it on?
The Detroit History Club. Yeah, Bailey runs that.
I'm writing that down.
Yeah, she's a regular contributor to our show as well.
We need to be friends.
Yes, you do.
You would love her. She's
I would
great.
love to see if she'd do an event with us.
Oh, I'm sure she would.
She's all about collaboration, just as you all are. But yeah, so hey, lunchtime techno at the Historical Museum. So there's a brand new festival this weekend. It's Saturday, August 10th. It's called Geometry. I had to train myself to say that right, but Geometry Music and Art Festival. It's at the Marble Bar. Stacey Hotwax Hale, one of Detroit's premier DJs, created this, and it's all about elevating the creativity of women in the field and a lot of people that maybe don't get the voice as much. So she really wanted to highlight youth, women, and it's got some big name musicians will be playing, like Monica Blair, Idea. Girls Rock Detroit forms different girl bands, and they'll be performing. Huge long list. And then DJs, Houdat, Lady Monix, Mike Todd, a lot of people if you're into the DJ scene that you've seen around town. So she's gathering this as for a whole long day at the Marble Bar, and it's also going to include the book launch for Grandma Techno, who I just interviewed.
Yeah.
Yes.
The bonus episode is in the mobile app if you want to. It's a good interview.
She's so special. Yeah. So this is going to be her platform too. She'll be there, I think, from noon to 8, signing copies of her book and meeting with people.
You know what I like about this? I mean, I worked in the music industry for a long time, and I worked in rock radio and alternative rock. And you would see women acts, female acts all the time in pop or R&B, stuff like that. It was rare to see it in rock. In fact, when it was, I remember when Evanescence came, I was the first guy to put Evanescence on the radio, and it was oh my God, it's Linkin Park, but with a girl, like that was
a big deal.
It was a big deal because that kind of stuff didn't come along. I can't remember a female DJ spinning on turntables. It was like Spinderella from Salt and Pepper.
Right. Yeah.
Even female rappers. There were a few, but they were, Queen Latifah and Moni Love and few and far between. So it's nice to see.
I know. Super cool. So check that out on Saturday. So I have some other concert picks as well. DTE has a bunch of shows this week, including Wednesday, Bryan Adams and Billy Idol. Saturday, the Florida Georgia Line. Sunday has Santana coming. And at the Aretha Franklin Amphitheater has a big lineup this week, too. Thursday, Herbie Hancock. Friday has Lost 80s Live. So these are a bunch of bands that basically only had, one or two songs all coming together to relive the 80s, like Flock of Seagulls.
All right, Luke. Yeah, 80s is your genre, right?
I do like
Wang
them.
Chung.
Yes. Can you name the one hit?
Oh, I'm horrible at trivia. I'm horrible at trivia. I was 9.
Flock of Seagulls was And I Ran.
I Ran.
Yeah, I Ran.
Yeah.
I love that song.
Bow Wow Wow was I Want Candy.
Yes.
Wang Chung was, there were a couple. There was Everybody Have Fun Tonight and Dance Hall Days.
Oh,
is
Dance
the
Hall
other
Days.
one that I love.
Yeah.
So
I think
remember
Animotion. There's a bunch of bands.
Wang Chung. If you guys were at Chuck E. Cheese in the area back in the day,
they
used to play the Wang Chung song all the time with those animatronic. I don't even know what it was.
So freaky.
And I would just rock out to that, like 9-year-old Luke, just going crazy at a Chuck E. Cheese.
Nice. You'll have to show us some pictures of that.
Yes.
You have to
I think we
out.
burned those.
is there film of that?
I don't know. I'd have to ask my mom.
Wow.
I'm sure
right.
maybe photos.
Call up
I have no
Mrs.
idea.
Castle. So also at Aretha Franklin Amphitheater this weekend on Sunday is Gladys Knight. So that'll be a great show too. Meadowbrook has a bunch going on this week. Saturday, Sarah McLachlan. Sunday, Ben Folds and the Violent Femmes. Speaking of a little 80s. And this is pretty cool because Ben Folds is going to stay in town for a while. And on Monday, Ann DeLisi is going to be interviewing him at the Blind Pig in Ann Arbor because he actually has a new book out. He wrote his memoirs.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's called The Dream About Lightning Bugs.
I'll let you. I know I say this a lot. It was not me, but it was my station, which no longer exists in Providence, Rhode Island, first one to put Ben Folds on the air. Yeah, underground. And put the full, there's like a full extended intro on it. We would play that. It was not the radio. edit. Did you see he did like some Moscow Mitch performance
I did
recently,
see that.
and it's been a viral video that's going around.
Yeah, it's big time. Yeah. Yeah, very cool. So Thursday, August 8th, Commons coming to the Fillmore. Friday, August 9th, there's a free show at the DSO Sosnick Courtyard there. I don't know if you guys have been, but it's that little space on the just across from Orchestra Hall on the side street there next to the parking garage. It's a beautiful courtyard. It's really cool. And they started doing shows
pull
there.
the torch on the wall and the entire fireplace just rotates, and then you
down.
step back and you go down the steps.
That sounds great.
That's a,
I'll bring my 20-sided dice.
I really like how you brought that to life there, Seth.
You know,
okay.
that's how you get there.
So they have a bunch of shows lined up, and this Friday, My Brightest Diamond is going to be there with Marcus Elliott, who plays saxophone and sound sculpture. It's kind of this whole interactive sound, light, rock, classical kind of mashup. It sounds like a really cool event. And then on Sunday, August 11th, Tuxedo is coming to El Club. That's the duo Mayor Hawthorne and Jake One. They're on like their third album now. So fun and funky. And yes, they wear tuxedos.
The D-Brief.
Your guide to the choice arts and entertainment scene.
All right, guys, let's talk stand-up comedy for a little bit. There is a comedian. This is one of the guys who has done really well out of this area. I mean, you know, we talk a lot when we talk about Tim Allen coming from this area, where we talk about, Joey from, Dave Coulier.
Oh, yeah.
Joey from Full House.
Keegan-Michael Key.
Keegan-Michael
Yeah.
Key. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But this is a guy who has done quite a bit as well. He's from Birmingham, and he is coming home to perform at the Comedy Castle Wednesday through Saturday. J Chris Newberg, who has toured with Dane Cook. He's now out in L.A. He's performed on Jimmy Kimmel and The Tonight Show and Comedy Central. He competed on one of my favorite shows, America's Got Talent, which is hard to do if you're a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, it doesn't fit that
It doesn't fit
formula
that.
very well.
No, and we talked about that, and
Okay.
he said, "Yeah, I wouldn't do a comedy competition again." He said it's it's just not right for it. It led to other things. Like he met Howie Mandel. He wound up doing some stuff with Howie Mandel. He's written for American Idol. He did something for the 40-Year-Old Virgin. I mean, this is a guy who's a legit working comic who is from the area.
Good for him.
He's also got a podcast called Heroin Has a Great Publicist, which is a fantastic
Why didn't we
name.
think of that
should have. That
title?
would have been yes. So he is coming Wednesday night at the Comedy Castle, which is going to be tonight when you're. It's going to be tomorrow night when you're listening to this.
Yeah.
He's going to be recording that live, or you can go see him Thursday, Friday, or Saturday doing his stand-up. I had an opportunity to catch up with him from LA, and one of the things we started talking about is one of the things that working comics do is they'll write for other comics.
Sure.
And he alluded to this on his podcast that when he got back from Michigan and returned to LA, he was going to be writing for a big name comic. And of course, it's
he
not
didn't
kosher. Well, you're
say
not
who.
supposed to
Yeah.
say who you're writing for.
Sure. It's like having a ghostwriter.
Right, but this was a guy who I think blew up, became a movie star, made a ton of money. And so we talked about why somebody like that would then go and hire him to write comedy for him.
He doesn't really have anything to write about anymore because he has a ton of money. He's happy. He's made it. There's no struggle. There's no comedy without struggle. You can't just be like, just as a typical example, like comic walks on stage and he or she is like, oh man, so my girlfriend left me, or my dog's dead, or whatever. So that's one, and everyone's like, oh, cool. All right, I'm on board. And then it's funny. And then you're relieved. A comic can't walk on stage and be like, so my son's LeBron James and just bought me a castle. No one's going to relate or connect with that.
Okay.
Does that work in the filmmaking world too? Does there come a point at which you can no longer make films because you're so successful?
Kevin Smith talked about this actually in one of his specials. He's like, I haven't not been able to pay my bills in 25 years. I don't know what to write about anymore. I'm not a slacker like in Clerks.
Right.
And he addresses this as like, I don't know what to do. And this is right after he made Zach and Marie make a porno. And he's like, I was trying to be Judd Apatow, but I'm not Judd Apatow. I'm Kevin Smith, and I have to make Kevin Smith movies, not Judd movies. Judd's a great director. I love him. I love working with him, but I have a thing that I do, and I tried to do what somebody else does, and I don't do that as well.
Yeah, I can see that.
And he talks about how he always followed Wayne Gretzky, and Wayne Gretzky's biggest quote that he would follow is "Go where the puck is going," and he was always ahead of the curve with Clerks, with all these moves,
Oh, for sure.
with Chasing Amy. He was always a step ahead of us in what we're willing to talk about and how do we address it. And what he's willing to show, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
And
But
he
then when
tried to
your
do
life
something.
changes.
Yeah, he tried to do something that has already been done. So yeah, I think you do get too big to, especially if you're like Kevin Smith, who writes about his life. And
Right.
posts
Yeah.
from it.
So personal,
we,
yeah.
You know, we watched Ellen has a new Netflix special.
it's
a couple months,
awesome.
right? And it's great. You know,
Relatable.
That's what it's called, right?
relatable,
And she actually talks about this issue because she sort of addresses it head on because she knows when you're a star as big as she does. Now, I'm sure somebody else wrote that special too, or a lot of the
she
jokes
wrote
in
it.
it.
There was an interview with her talking about like with her manager saying, "How are you going to write this?" She's like, I don't know. And that's how it came out. She's like, I'm just so unrelatable now. And she talks about like they weren't her people weren't too into her doing the special because is she still relevant? Can she connect with it? And yeah, I think she did.
We're going to see it with Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy just got $70 million to do a new Netflix special.
I want to see an Eddie Murphy special. I mean, we're due for one. Like if he goes down in a ball of fire, great. I'm going to watch that too. But if he knocks it out like he did in the 80s.
I don't know. Okay. Season 5 of Arrested Development has me jaded. So.
I agree. They didn't do Arrested Development well. But it's Eddie Murphy.
All right.
Like if he still has another one in him, like if he starts talking about his taxes, I'm there. I want to hear the crap that he got into with his taxes. I want to hear this stuff, and I want to hear it from his mouth.
Right. Right.
I want to see how he can turn that around and entertain us with the crap that he's pulled in his life. So I do want to hear that.
High hopes.
Well, speaking of other comics, one of the things that came up when I was talking to J Chris was Larry the Cable Guy.
Okay.
And he really likes Larry the Cable Guy, and he explains why.
I worked with Cable Guy a couple weeks ago, and he and I correspond back and forth. And he's just the coolest dude I've probably ever talked to. One of the coolest dudes I've ever talked to in comedy. He and like Russell Peters and like pretty much him and Russell are the only two dudes I know who just genuinely love jokes. They just love them. And so like he and Larry or Dan and I will just text back and forth just jokes. And it's pretty cool to just be like, here's a dude who doesn't need to talk to me, doesn't need, like no interest in what I'm doing, but like dude just talks to me about jokes because he saw my set and he's like, you're so funny. And we were just like, he's like, you're a joke guy. There's so few joke guys. We're joke guys. And I'm like, absolutely.
That seems weird to say.
I know. Comedians aren't joke guys.
Well, except that I kind of get it because there are some people for whom the art that they do becomes a business.
Yes.
You know, and then, right? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right?
It's not for the love of the jokes.
Do you have people that you just love talking film to where you're just, I love that shot, or I don't know.
I think I'm more reserved about it. Corey, who I work with all the time at the film festival, he's the kind of guy that would love to talk about that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm more of the business side, to be honest.
Yeah, I get it.
That's fine.
My vice president's dad actually tries to talk to me about photography and stuff. I'm just like, it's like it's what I do. It's like, that's my job.
Yeah,
Like, can we talk about video games?
Right, yeah.
Like, can we talk about video games? Please, let's talk about video games.
Something fun that you like.
I will say that when I worked in the music industry, after a while, going to concerts started to feel like homework. And it's, so if you can find somebody who reminds you of why you got into it in the first place.
Yes.
I think that's really cool. I'm shocked that it's Larry the Cable Guy. Just didn't see that coming.
I wouldn't have picked that out of a hat.
He's such a different like Larry is a character he puts on.
Yeah.
So I can see him being like a really cool guy if that's the character you choose to be.
Yeah.
Like there has to be some kind of crazy
behind that.
Like what's going on up there?
Right.
The real guy. Yeah.
No, it'd be cool.
Another thing I talked to J Chris about was his joke writing process, and he let me in on it.
One of the jokes I gave to someone recently, there was a tooth fairy. It was a tooth fairy, but there was a kid in India who had 526 teeth in his mouth. He had they thought he had a tumor. And they operated on it, and they realized this kid has 526 teeth. I'm like, well, that's not the bad news. He needed braces. And then I was like, oh, you know what? Can you just imagine look on the face of the tooth fairy when she's like, yeah, Gina, I just have one more house, one more stop, and then I'm going to go there, and then I'll meet you at the club, and it'll be perfect. And then Gina she gets there, she's like, holy shit, I don't have, no, I can't do this.
I love that. Because
so funny.
You totally see how his mind works
yes,
when you're doing this.
And I'm like, why didn't I think of that? Like literally, I was sitting around talking with my boys and my husband I don't know, after dinner or something, and they were like, Mom, did you hear about this kid in India with and guess how many teeth, and I guess like 50 or whatever, and that's 500. And so of course we're like, ew, weird, strange, but why didn't we think of that?
Right, to take it to that, okay, what are the...
But that's the genius of it.
It
Everyone
is.
can relate to the tooth fairy and what he's talking about, but I didn't think of that.
No, I thought, as soon as he gave me that explanation, I was like, that's brilliant.
Yes.
That's, I get it. So you should go see this guy. He's really funny. He performs with a guitar a lot.
Oh, I like that already.
So go to Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. Go check him out. Like I said, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it's him doing stand-up. Wednesday, he's going to be doing the podcast. And if you want to hear our entire, my entire conversation with him, it's in our mobile app as a bonus episode. So go check it out.
This is the D.
Detroit
This is the D.
Brave.
All right, let's talk about some of the things that are going on around town. Starting with this, you guys have pen pals as a kid?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Really?
That's a big thing.
absolutely.
Who was your pen pal?
So I'm Filipino American, so I had a pen pal in the Philippines, which was a relative, and then so my dad's Filipino. My mom's her family's from the South, like the Appalachian Mountains, and I had a cousin there that would write me all the time, and we're actually still really good friends. That one cousin, we still talk all the time. But now we use like Facebook.
Yeah,
so.
right.
Right,
It's
it's
changed,
changed
right?
from
But yeah, I go out there and
You
I'll
don't
stay.
wanna wait
and-
that long.
And like Uncle Luke out there, it's great. But yeah, no, I had a pen pal.
Who was your pen pal?
I just various ones. So we had to do different things in school. I went to Catholic school, and we had like a, sister school in I think it was in Italy or something. And so we would write letters back and forth as part of our school stuff.
And this was always something to sort of bring cultures together. I feel like it was done a lot
Yes,
in
it
schools.
was like to exchange. And then also I had a few friends that moved away, as a kid, and that's how we would keep in touch. I don't know if that's the technical definition of a pen pal, but
Well,
yeah.
So here's the updated version of that, and it's in Spirit Plaza downtown. There is now a gold-painted shipping container that allows folks to go in there and have conversations with other people in 40 different cities worldwide.
I love this idea.
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
I'm gonna go do this.
So it's like FaceTime with people around the world.
Yes, except the video screens are life-sized.
Nice.
So it's not like something on a little phone. It's
You
like
feel like you're across the table from
yes,
somebody.
really talking to them. It's part of a project called Shared Studios. It's the brainchild of a former Washington Post reporter who basically wanted to connect people from different cultures. So you can just go in and
That's so cool to have this kind of woven in, because it's just like anything, when you don't understand people or you're ignorant about other cultures, it's really easy to put them in a box. And
Absolutely.
it's really easy to dislike them.
really, you feel like that happens?
Yeah, I'm not talking brain surgery here, I know, but it's just I think that's pretty impactful.
I've traveled quite a bit, and I've spent months in the Philippines, which is my parents, and it's like when I went at 17, it was life changing, and then recently I
Yes.
went back for 3 months about 2 years ago, and that was life changing. And now I go back every single year. It's a different world, and then when you travel, it's just we're not the only people here now.
Exactly.
And we're not the only people that think that, but there's so many things that do connect us.
Yeah, and we all kind of want the same things at the
yeah,
end of the day.
absolutely.
And it's really hard to hate somebody if you know them.
Yeah, it is.
I love this idea.
It's great.
Yeah.
All right, there's also some drama in the world of drama. In the world
That's
of
just
theater.
unbelievable.
More than usual. Here's what's going on. The Wild Awards, which are basically the Michigan Tonys.
Yeah,
right? This
we
is something
talked
that's-
about that a couple weeks ago.
We talked about it with David Kiley, who
Yeah.
runs Encore Michigan, the website, and puts together the Wild Awards. It's been going on for several years now. Unfortunately, this year's event has been canceled, and there was some drama that led up to this. And we'll have to get David Kiley on at some point and talk to him and get his side of the story. But what I can piece together. He went and saw Debbie Does Dallas, the musical, at the Ringwald, which we've talked about.
Yeah, basically the musical version of that
of
Pornographic
the
film,
pornographic
from the
film
70s.
yeah. So
How do they do that on the stage?
I
No sex scenes.
I don't know.
But then is
I know.
it source like?
I don't know. This
it
may
honoring
be
the
this
source
may be
material?
Not
one
really.
of those
No.
cases where the original work surpasses the.
Right.
All right.
Depending on, yeah.
Anyway, he didn't like it, and he left before the production
So you
was
didn't
over.
see the whole thing.
Right, so we
Yeah,
didn't see the
yeah.
whole thing, and he wrote a negative review about it. And I think there was some pushback in the theater community. I don't even know that it was because he wrote a negative review, but it was because he wrote a negative review without staying to see the
Right. It
whole
was kind of
thing.
like, how can you express your opinion if you
Right.
didn't even see the whole thing?
And I think this kind of blew up in social media, the way that things blow up in social media.
It
and
was ugly.
Yeah, and I sort of feel like this was a boiling point, and next thing you know,
Yeah. It wasn't just about this.
Encore
Yeah.
Michigan is rethinking the way it's doing some things. The original founder of Encore Michigan actually weighed in as well, and he kind of tried to offer up some plans for a potluck dinner to smooth things over. We'll see whether that works out or not. I don't know what's going to happen. But as of right now, the Wild Awards are off. Other things going on this week. Pink Floyd, The Wall. I feel like this is one of those college experiences that I never had. I never
Oh, you
really,
didn't?
I never got high and watched Pink Floyd,
Me
The Wall.
too.
Right.
What?
You did, right?
I went to art school, guys.
I know.
So like,
What?
what was I missing out on?
Wow.
Well, you can go do it this weekend, Friday night. They're going to be showing it at the Redford Theater, only $5. Saturday, you've got Pewabic Pottery's summer sale. So this is something they do every year. It's a clearinghouse of like seconds, overruns, imperfect architectural tiles.
That's a great place for dates.
Yeah,
First
really?
dates, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
I used to
Yeah.
work there, believe it or not. And now I always hit the sale. Oh, yeah. It's great stuff.
Did you see a lot of people bringing dates?
Yeah, a lot of like, how like couples would go to the farmer's market.
Yeah.
Or it's like that. Yeah.
Do it, guys. Just
Oh,
do it.
yeah. The ladies
And
love
girls.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Makes you look
any
sophisticated,
couples.
right?
Yes.
Speaking of good date ideas, Saturday night, you've also got Wild Beasts, Wild Wine at the Detroit Zoo over there in Royal Oak. And then you've got Schitt's Creek Live. I can say that. Apple,
Yes.
if you're listening, because there's a C in the
SCH.
word shits.
Yes.
SCHITT apostrophe S.
Do you want to say it some more? Get it out of your-
No, I'm
Okay.
good. But it's happening at the Masonic Temple. So this is a television series. Do you watch it? I don't.
I did. Watch
Do you
this,
really?
Yeah.
Netflix, right?
Yeah.
I binged the whole thing. There's like, I don't know, a few
it good?
seasons. It's really good.
Okay,
It's
I'm gonna check it out.
hilarious.
It's Eugene Levy, who is the guy from American Pie, and his son Daniel Levy are in it.
His real life son, and he plays his son in the show.
So they're going to be there at this event at the Masonic Temple.
Oh, I
So-
would go to the.
Is it like in the vein of like A Mighty Wind and those movies that he does? Or
Well,
is-
no. So the premise is there's a really wealthy family, and due to crazy reasons, they just lost their entire fortune. And
yes.
the only asset they have is this town, Schitt's Creek. So they're like, well, we'll go check out our town and live there. And it's just a piece of.
Gotcha.
And they're living in this
You
rundown
can't say it when
motel.
there's no C in the word.
Yeah. And all these crazy, hijinks ensue. So
Sounds. I'm gonna go watch that now.
it's funny.
Speaking of crazy hijinks, on Sunday, 313 Comedy presents The Roast of Josh Adams. Josh Adams is a comedian we've talked about a lot. We've had on the podcast. This guy, I think, is one of the funniest guys in the city of Detroit. And he is going to be here because he's in a group called the Motown Laugh Kings with three other guys. The other three have all moved out to L.A. at this point. Josh is the last one still in the Detroit area. Jeff Horst, who I just saw at the Comedy Castle over the last weekend, is going to be hosting this roasting of Josh Adams. He's another one of the Motown Laugh Kings. This is going to be one of those things that is either incredibly funny or so full of inside jokes you're not going to get it.
They would just go right. But I think really the biggest claim to fame of both Josh and Jeff is that they've been on the debrief.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
This is the D.
Detroit.
This is the D. Breathe.
There it is. That's our show. Luke, thanks for joining us for that.
Thank you for having me. This has been great.
so much fun to chat.
A couple of things we got to let you know about before we get out of here. First of all, we've got a mobile app. You can download it for the iPhone or for Android.
And you can also listen to us on the Amazon Echo. Just say, Alexa, enable the Debrief podcast.
And on Thursday this week, we have Michael Smith of the Detroit Improv Fest. We're releasing that episode a day early because the Improv Fest is happening Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and
Right.
Saturday. You're going to want to know all about it. It's a really cool event. event. Look, before we get out of here, we always want to give shout outs to people locally who are doing something really cool. So, Becky, let's start with you. Who do you want to give a shout out to?
Sure. I'll give a shout out to the Armageddon Beach Party. Now, this is a venue that's an art gallery, a space for live music, and just a really unique spot. It's on Putnam Street over by the Wayne State Athletic Fields. And it's created by this lovely couple who are artists together. And they have this really kind of pop surrealist art style. So the whole place is covered in their art. There's stuff you can buy. I went for a live music show. And it's just like kind of this cool place in the community that you never know what's going to happen, and just kind of bubbling over with creativity. So I love what they're doing. They just celebrated their 1-year anniversary.
Nice. What about you? Like Luke?
So here in Detroit, I'm a big fan of Mexican Town. I think me and my assistant go there probably at least once a week just to do grocery shopping and
Honeybee Market.
Prince Valley. It's
like
always
Prince
about
Valley?
Prince Valley.
Yeah, no, that's good.
So like my favorite places are probably down in there. I've been threatening to move there soon, even though I just moved. But I think it's called El Rey's.
Yeah.
Is like
Taco Del Rey?
Yeah, Taqueria. I don't know.
Taqueria?
Taqueria El Rey.
Taqueria El Rey.
It's a great place. The parking lot's like this muddy, but it's so busy now. I remember going back there 10 years ago and it was empty, and now it's just.
And here you are telling more people about it.
I know. Don't go there is what I'm saying. Please don't go there because I need time to go there.
Wait till Ford really moves into that train station.
I know, right? There's another really great place, and I'm not going to say where it's at, but it's a taco truck in a small little community park in Mexican Town. It's run by a family. Their house is like across the street from the taco truck, and they only are opens on the weekends. Mm-hmm. And it's what they do like as the side business, and it's also amazing. They do ceviche tacos,
but you're not going to tell us who it is.
I don't even really know. I think it's called Martin Park, but I don't really know because it takes me forever to find it myself. You just the way I found it is I was just driving around exploring, and I'm like, there's a taco truck in a park, and it never moves. And I would go back there week after week, and it never moved. And then one of the daughters was like, yeah, no, we live across the street, and we just bring the food out to the truck, and it's great. It's lawn chairs and like plastic tables, and
I love spots.
It's just
like
a community space, and you really never find anybody else there. It's just usually the community that they're feeding.
That's perfect.
That's cool.
You can find it if you just drive around.
Yes,
that's all I'm saying.
Just show up. Just get
show
out
up.
there.
Just figure it out.
Yeah.
It's off of Michigan Avenue. I can tell you that.
All right. I want to give a shout out. I saw Jeff Horst at the Comedy Club, Mark Ridley's Comedy Club this weekend, who we've talked about. He's been on the show. Comedian who was on Kevin Hart's Heart of the City, has now moved out to LA. I want to give a shout out to his girlfriend because she also came back with him to perform this weekend, Esther Navarez. And Jeff was solid as always, but Esther came out and did a bunch of material that I hadn't seen from her before. And it was it was the best set I've ever seen her do.
Oh, nice.
So I just want to give a shout out to her because I thought she did an absolutely fantastic job.
Awesome.
Speaking of comedy, thanks to J Chris Newberg for coming on the podcast and telling us about what he's been up to. Go see him this weekend at the Comedy Castle. And speaking of castles, thank you to you, Luke.
Yeah, thank you guys.
People want to find out more about your art institute and your film festival. Where do they go?
For both, they can go to Royal Starr with 2Rs.org. So it's Royal Starr STARR.org. And there they can find out all the information. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I think Instagram and Facebook are we're most active on. But yeah, go out there. If you see me, because I'm always around town, just wave me down. Tell you all about it.
Awesome. And we'll have you back again tomorrow.
Awesome.
So, until then, Detroit's moving.
Keep up.
The Debrief.
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.
Hi, Craig Foley here. If you're listening to the Debrief podcast, well, I've got two things to say to you. One, you have impeccable taste. Two, you care about the community that is Metro Detroit. That's why I think you'd appreciate my daily show, The Craig Foley Show on Deadline Detroit. Every weekday, I tackle the big issues in politics, business, arts and culture, sports. Whatever's on the mind of Detroiters and Michiganders, we will talk about it. It's all open for discussion. And keep this in mind. News doesn't have to be boring. Sure, we talk about serious stories and we have interviews and commentary, but we do it in a way that, if I'm doing my job right, is informative but also entertaining. Check out The Craig Folly Show on Deadline Detroit for news, knowledge, hopefully some fun tossed in.